And it's just basketball. At the end of the day, it's just basketball.
Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe on the way in the door, my people. I hope you all are having a truly fantastic day today. Welcome back to Fanboy Fridays. Fanboys,
sit your $5 ass down before I make change.
And we hope your day is going terrible. All right. So, bigger, stronger, faster. Bigger, stronger, faster. Bigger, stronger, and faster. This is what we have been hearing about this modern day era of basketball over and over for the last, I don't know how many years. Partly because, again, it's the attempt to promote this. They have to keep promoting the product as if it's getting better. And partly for the sake of the false king, the deer, and the 4 and 6 kingdom to try to justify the constant failures. But before we get started, they keep talking about how much the NBA has evolved. The game has evolved. The game has evolved. Let's read the definition of evolve really quickly. And it says, develop gradually, especially from a simple to a more complex form. The company has evolved into a major chemical manufacturer. So basically, to develop from a simple to a more complex form. The NBA has evolved. This is what we keep hearing. And based off this definition, I would say the NBA has devolved. The NBA has devolved. It hasn't evolved. How has it devolved? It has devolved because the rules and the standards aren't the same, right? Is when you are not gonna call traveling and just the basic rules of the game the way that you used to call them. When you're gonna let players get away with carrying and those kind of things, to me, you can't say the game has evolved. And they say the players are more skilled, but what they really mean by that is the players have better handles and can shoot better overall. And this is debatable in a lot of ways too. Simply, like I said, because how can you say they can actually shoot better if they're not shooting under the same circumstances? How can you say they can dribble better if they're not dribbling under the same circumstances? For anybody out there that has great handles or thinks they has great handles, try doing it with a forearm on you. Try doing it with a hand on you. That makes a world of difference. And on that note, speaking about the NBA evolving, we're going to sidestep because this video is about how these Olympics has exposed this narrative of these modern day players are just so much more skilled, so much better than it used to be. But we're going to talk about the 100-meter dash in the Olympics. In 1984, this name slipped my mind just that quickly. What's the runner's name? Carl. Now I got to look it up. Give me just 1 second. 1 second. Carl Lewis. 1984, Carl Lewis won the 100-meter dash with a time of 10.32. And I'm just going to kind of skip around here. 1992, the year of the Dream Team. A guy named Linford Christie won the 100-meter dash with a time of 9.960. 2009 was the year Usain Bolt won the time with 9.572. And of course, 2024, we have Noah Lyles, who won it with a time of 9.79. Now, this time is slower than what Usain Bolt did in 2009. So, 15 years ago. And Noah Lyles was not faster than Usain Bolt. Now, I did this to say between 1984 and 2024, it's 40 years. The margin of time that has gotten better is about 0.6 seconds. Not quite that. Not quite 0.6 seconds. And we can probably attribute that to a lot of things. But what I guarantee you cannot attribute it to is that human beings as a whole are just getting faster than they used to be. I guarantee you that's not the reason. I guarantee you it has more to do with workouts and medicine and that kind of thing. That's what's shaving off these fractions of a second of time. And I talked about this just to show you that in 40 years, how small, less than 0.6 of a second in the 100-meter dash. And I said that because the way they talk about this modern NBA as if it has been like 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 years of human evolution with these basketball players. It does not happen like that. We have always had fantastic athletes in the NBA, whether you're talking about Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, Darrell Griffith, who I believe is tied for the highest vertical jump in the NBA with Michael Jordan. And then, of course, you got your Vince Carters, even if you want to talk about people like Ja Morant in the modern day era. And LeBron James would fall under the, I think, physically gifted category in the NBA. But the NBA has always had extremely gifted athletes. Now, I would say that inevitably, if the NBA continues, if they don't ruin it and run all of the fans away, if it continues for hundreds of years, and it could be in the next 20 years, it could take 200 years, but eventually there will come a player along who is better than Michael Jordan. That will happen just because of the odds. If people keep being born, circumstances in the world keep changing, that inevitably will eventually happen. But let me tell you what's not going to happen. There will never come a time where the whole NBA, the league as a whole, is full of Michael Jordans. That will never happen. Because again, there has always been extraordinary humans. But to think that the average person basically is going to evolve to where the average person is much stronger and much faster than we are today, or that we are much stronger and much faster than our grandfathers and great grandfathers, that's completely ridiculous. Like, that completely ridiculous. And so while there will always be extraordinary humans born who will break records, continue to break records, no doubt, well into the future. That's just the odds of new people being born under new circumstances. But to think that you will ever have a whole league of players that are as gifted as Michael Jordan, that will never happen. Now, so I have a question. I have a question for you fanboys out there. It is Fanboy Fridays. I hate to make you guys think, and I know you won't do it anyway. I know you are gearing up to type hater in the comments. I've been seeing some new fanboys show up lately. It seems I've run most of the old fanboys off. It's a new batch. But welcome. We'll put you in the fanboy file soon enough. But question for you fanboys. Because, when we're talking about the narrative of these modern NBA stars are so much more skilled, the game has evolved, and at the same time, we're also hearing about how the world has caught up with the United States in basketball. So I have a question for you fanboys out there. Do you think that any of the teams that this 2024 team went up against would have beat the 1992 Dream Team? Do you think any of the teams that the United States went up against would have beat the 1992 Dream Team with Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, who else? John Stockton, Karl Malone. Do you think that any of these teams that they faced would have actually beat the 92 Dream Team? Now, I'm asking this question because we're trying to get down to the bottom of, we're trying to quantify how much better the world has gotten. See, when I hear them continuously talk about how much better the world has gotten, first of all, the first thing I think is, well, you guys are trying to make an excuse for the United States not dominating like they used to. And am I saying the rest of the world hadn't gotten better? No, I'm not saying that at all. But what I hear when I hear them talk about with such emphasis about how much better the world has gotten, how the world has finally caught up with the United States in basketball, then to me, what you are saying is that the 1992 Dream Team would not dominate the world in the same way. But again, how much you're putting emphasis, it leads me to believe that you think that it would be competitive games between the 1992 Dream Team if they had to play these modern day teams from around the world. This is what I'm hearing. And I'm not going to necessarily disagree with this for the point that I'm about to make, even though I completely disagree with this. It's completely ridiculous. The 1992 Dream Team would destroy the rest of the world today, just like they did back then. Maybe instead of by an average of 40 points, maybe it'll be an average of 30 points. But let's say, for the sake of this argument, that that the rest of the world has truly caught up, and that they would give the 92 Dream Team a run for their money. Like, these would be some competitive games, and Michael Jordan wouldn't be able to take a back seat like he did in the 1992 Olympics. He would have to be Michael Jordan. Like, he would have to be the guy who takes over the game, kind of like Steph Curry did instead of your king, fanboys. This is what Michael Jordan would have to do instead of just, enjoy the game and, have such a great team chemistry like they did. So if this is indeed the case, this is the matter we have to discuss, people. If the world has caught up with the United States to that degree that they would give the 1992 Dream Team a run, well, what about also the narrative that the NBA players has gotten so much better than what the 80s and 90s eras players were? What about that narrative? Because if that is actually the case, then that should still mean that the U.S. completely dominates the rest of the world. This is the problem when you have to constantly create narratives to prop up falsehoods. This is the problem. So, if you are saying that the rest of the world has gotten so much better that the 1992 Dream Team would no longer dominate, but you are also saying that the NBA players have gotten so much better and are so much more skilled, and the game has evolved from what it was in the 70s, 80s, and 90s by such a large margin, because this is what we keep hearing. Bigger, stronger, faster, bigger, stronger, faster, they're better shooters, they're more skilled, they can do all of these things. Then that should still mean that they should have absolutely destroyed the competition. Still. I mean, this is only a logical thing, right? This is only logical. Correct me if I'm wrong. Fanboys, go sit in the corner. I know your wheels are turning right now. I know you're sick to your stomach with this logic. I know it hurts to hear, but no one asked you to tune into my channel. I asked you another video. Fanboys, do you guys actually watch channels that are in support of LeBron James? Because it seems that you only watch channels like this. But anyway, yeah, this is the question. Something's not adding up. Something's not adding up with this narrative. Something's not adding up with this narrative of bigger, stronger, faster. The game has evolved, and these players are so much better than the 80s and 90s. Something is not adding up. Well, we all know the truth behind this. The truth is that ever since 2003, the NBA has started selling a narrative versus letting the product sell itself. See, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, they saved the NBA. And there was a lot of narratives going on around the Magic and Larry rivalry. Race played a big factor into it, but all of it played a factor into saving the NBA, for better or for worse, However, the thing is both Magic Johnson and Larry Bird were two great players who everybody wanted to watch because they knew whenever these two matched up, it was going to be a competition. It was going to be a fierce competition. When you go listen to Larry Bird and Magic talk about when they lost to each other, it wasn't, it's just basketball. That wasn't the answer, fanboys. When they lost to each other, it was motivation for them to come back and try to destroy the player the next time. When Larry lost to Magic in college, like, he was highly bothered. And this was a case where Larry's team was highly outmatched by Magic's team. But he was highly bothered. And Larry didn't quit. He didn't walk off the court early. He didn't get on the news conference and say, it's just basketball. Well, he didn't come out to the press conference in a cast after. He said, well, actually, no one knew, but, I broke my hand before the game started. He didn't do any of those things. He simply played his hardest, and when he got to the NBA, they had this great rivalry. But it was the competition is what sold the game. And then, of course, we had Michael Jordan come into the league and took it to another level, who had a greater level of athleticism for a guy his size, who had a stronger competitive drive, and who had that, like I said, I don't think Michael Jordan ever felt like, someone posted in the comments that Michael Jordan said he never lost, he only ran out of time. And that makes perfect sense. And I'm trying to remember where Michael Jordan said that. I can't remember if it was in one of his like documentary type videos or was it in a commercial. If somebody knows where that quote came from, drop it in the comments. But yeah, Michael Jordan said he never lost, he only ran out of time. This makes perfect sense because Michael Jordan never looked defeated. And if you listen to people like BJ Armstrong talk about Michael Jordan, he said Michael Jordan always played like the score was 0-0. This is how he approached the game. And if you listen to Michael Jordan talks about, not fearing the consequences of missing a shot because he always feels like he's going to make the next one. If you listen to the stories about Michael Jordan where, he tells a player, hey, I'm going to drop 45 on you, and then he drops 43, and then he's like, oh, well, that's okay, you got to come to Chicago. So it wasn't good enough, the fact that he dropped 43. It's like, no, I told you I'm going to drop 45, so I have to do this. Next time I see you, it's going to be 45. Like, this is the mindset of Michael Jordan, and this is what, again, made non-basketball fans want to watch the game. It wasn't just the look of his game, which was still the most aesthetically pleasing game to watch, from his fadeaways to just how he moves on the court, to his layup package, to his hang time, to his just nonstop intensity on the court. It wasn't just that. It was that never say die attitude. And all those things together made non-basketball fans want to watch this guy play every single chance they could. So Michael Jordan, another player that came into the NBA and drew the fans to the game because of how he played. And then Michael Jordan retires. And he comes back as a Wizard, and we all know the story about Ron Harper breaking his ribs. The summer before he actually came back to play, Ron Artest talks about how he felt. Did I say Ron Artest? But yeah, Ron Artest broke Michael Jordan's ribs. Ron Artest talks about how he felt so bad because he felt like he stifled Michael Jordan's progress getting back in shape for the season when he came back as a Wizard. Then we know Michael Jordan had the meniscus tear as a Wizard, but and then so Michael Jordan finally retires for good after his second season with the Wizards in 2003. And then the NBA had to find a way to keep the money train rolling, to keep the excitement rolling. And we had Kobe Bryant in the league, who was definitely, honestly, once Kobe retired, I was it was really no reason to watch the NBA anymore. Once Kobe retired. But we still had Kobe, but the NBA was still, promoting the chosen one. Promoting LeBron James and promoting all these false narratives. And we get into this thing about how the NBA has evolved, but then we have all these rules that have made the game easier. The freedom of movement, the not being able to stay in the paint, the no hand checking, and just the constant thing that makes the game easier. But the game has evolved. So someone tell me how. Again, it's the definition of evolve is going from something simple to something more complex. The gameplay is only shooting threes now. It's ISO and threes. It's somebody dribbling down the court, and if they can't make it, try to drive and kick. What's more complex about that? What is evolutionary about that? When teams used to have an identity back in the day. But besides just being, you used to have some teams that were more of a fast break teams. You had teams that were more, playing from the post kind of teams. And then even within those teams still had their own identity about how they ran those things. The players themselves had more of an identity. You know, not everybody looked the same. You know, you had your Kevin Johnsons, and then you had your people like Robert Pack, you know, who doesn't get talked about, but was a athletic, you know, he would dunk on you. You know, I was just watching a video of Robert Pack. I can't remember, but I think he dunked on the center or something. KJ dunked on the center. It might have been Akeem Olajuwon, if it's the dunk I'm thinking about. But yeah, you know, you had these guards that everybody had their own identity, from the point guard to the shooting guard to the small forward to the power forward to the center. You know, your Patrick Ewings and Alonzo Mournings, your Hakeem Olajuwons, your David Robinsons, your Dikembe Mutombos, and you had your Sam Perkins and Greg Ostertags and people like that, Detlef Schrempf. But you had so many different players who, you know, was more of a specialty thing. They had a role to fulfill on the team, and they took pride in fulfilling that role, and it wasn't every player trying to do everything. And despite what you know, the narrative that's pushed nowadays are like, oh, well, now everybody can do everything, and that's what makes these players so much greater. Wrong, because this was the exact problem that the U.S. had against these other teams. Is these other teams had more of a team concept, and the U.S. were just, you know, basically taking turns and to see who could score. So yeah, you know, this whole thing about the NBA has evolved. The NBA has evolved. What has the NBA evolved to? I would argue the NBA has devolved incredibly. And yeah, it's like I said, there's no character in the NBA anymore. There's no uniqueness. Again, everybody is doing the exact same thing, and it's simplistic as it can get. You know, everybody switches nowadays, which is why you wind up with so many ridiculous mismatches. But let's not talk about LeBron James, because LeBron James will still pass the buck on a mismatch. But yeah, so I think this whole narrative about bigger, stronger, faster, about the modern NBA player has evolved so much, about the game has evolved so much, about the rest of the world has caught up with America. To me, it seems like all of these things are highly overblown. Highly overblown. Because I believe the 1992 Dream Team would still, like I said, beat most of these teams by 30 points. 20 to 30 points. Easy. Because it's not and here's the other thing we need to talk about, is this whole notion of the players have evolved from an athletic standpoint. And I kind of touched on this already when I was talking about, you know, the 100-meter dash and the minuscule difference of time that has taken place from 1984 to 2024. But let's just talk about the athleticism itself. How big a deal is that really? I mean, even if you buy into, first of all, I feel like partly of this whole more athletic narrative is just about the fact that these players looked more ripped, but that really doesn't equate to much of anything. For those of you who play basketball, you know, if you were out there playing street ball every day, the guy who was out there ripped, he didn't necessarily have some advantage that nobody else had. Matter of fact, it was most of the time the skinny guys who were leaping and flying and super quick and, you know, was handling business on the court. And I'm not saying I didn't know some ripped guys who could ball. I'm just saying that was neither here nor there. You know, that's just an aesthetic. That's just how you look. But what does that mean for the game of basketball? Again, that's why Jokic being who he is. He's not the fastest, most athletic guy. You know, Larry Bird wasn't the fastest, most athletic guy. So what does this whole athletic thing that they have put so much emphasis on really mean? Let me tell you this. Most of the time, and that's why Michael Jordan was special. Most of the time, people only do enough to get by. They only do enough to accomplish the goal. And so what I mean by that is normally the more athletic guys, they are not going to go all out on the fundamentals the same way that a guy with less athleticism has. Like a guy with less athleticism, he's going to have to make sure he boxes you out to get that rebound. He's going to have to be sure of that because he knows that he can't just out jump you. You know, I'm 5'11". When I play basketball, you know, I'm boxing you out because sometimes I'm having to box out people 6'6", 6'7". I'm having to keep you away from the ball, you know, and use strength to box you out to get the ball. People who are less athletic, who have less size, they are more apt to spend time developing those crucial things that actually make your game. And here's where Michael Jordan was different. Michael Jordan actually had superb athleticism. One could argue the most athletic the NBA has seen, and had the work ethic of a person who didn't have any athleticism. He had the work ethic of someone who didn't have any athleticism. This is what made Michael Jordan special. But why is this? Because Michael Jordan, he wasn't just trying to get by. He wasn't just trying to be good enough. He wasn't just trying to be good enough to compete. Michael Jordan wanted to dominate, and he did. And this is the real thing. This is, you know, if anything else about what they say about this modern NBA, you know, if you want to believe that it is actually more athletic, okay, go ahead and believe that. Go ahead and believe it. If you want to believe that they are better shooters, even though they're not shooting under the same circumstances, go ahead and believe this. And let me say this also about the shooting thing and the dribbling thing. And another thing that happens, not only can you not shoot the same way and dribble the same way with that physical contact, but you also got to take into account this, the toll that it takes over the course of a game. You got to take into account the toll that it will take on you over the course of a game. So even if you start out shooting hot, you know, by the fourth quarter in that physical contact, you're going to be tired from that physical contact. Again, I'll keep bringing this up. We saw this with Kevin Durant versus the Celtics. They let the Celtics play a little bit of physical defense, and Kevin Durant looked like it was looking like LeBron James out there. Kevin Durant couldn't shoot. I mean, he couldn't get the ball up the court a lot of times from physical defense. This is the thing. And so yeah, if you want to buy into these things, okay. If you want to say that they're more athletic, okay. If you want to say that they're better shooters and better ball handlers, just like you fanboys, you guys are great ball handlers. If you want to say that, okay. But here's the thing that you can never account for is that they're not as fundamentally sound, which is a big deal. The fundamentals are really where it's at, and they do not have the same mental capacity. They just don't have that dog in them. They just don't have it. And you can tell that Not only because of their inconsistency at play, you can tell that by the way they walk, by the way they talk, by the things that they choose to do. All this podcasting and stuff, and having to get on here and try to spin the narrative and correct narratives is like you spending more time on the narratives about yourself than you are on the game. But anyway, we are gonna hold up here. But yeah, like I said, I just think this whole this Olympics exposed a lot of things. And I think it really exposed all of these narratives about how much better these modern players are. Again, I'm gonna say this one last time. If the world has indeed caught up and you were saying that the 92 team would no longer dominate, you're saying that they wouldn't dominate, that it would be competition now for the 92 team. But you are also in the same breath saying how much better these modern NBA players are than the players of the 80s and 90s. Then that means these players should still have dominated. And it shouldn't have been any close games. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. You all have a truly, truly fantastic day. And I'll see you next time. All right.